Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to my channel, Soul Journey. My name is Beck Ahimsa, and because we are still in January and I kind of want to get the new year going with a lot of intention setting and really setting the energy up for 2020, I thought it would be fun to do a current working decks video. And as you know, if you've been watching me for a little while, you know that I'm in the process of organizing my house, getting rid of a lot of stuff, bringing in what feels really, really good, and just really getting clear on my energy, on my routine, on just what feels good and what feels self-loving. And so one of the things is I have quite a large altar. If you'd like to see what that looks like, I do change it up every few months. I do have a couple different videos on my altar setup. So if you go back through my channel, you can definitely see a few of those videos for sure. But one of my issues is I often get a little too excited about decks every time I'm setting up my altar, and my altar ends up being filled with basically all decks. So I like to meditate at my altar. I like to work with my crystals and my deities and my inner child and all this stuff. But I don't really have any room on my altar to actually do workings. And so this time around, I'm getting really honest and clear with myself. I just reorganized all of my decks. I guess. I brought up a big shelf into my spirit room, and now all of my decks are in boxes, on my shelves, organized, and the only decks I am putting on my altar are my working decks. And one of them is actually, a couple of these decks I'm actually, they're really long-term decks that I work with. So even if I'm not working with them for too long, for a little bit of time, it's always really consistent. So I do have two decks like that. And I actually just remembered I forgot one of the decks. All right, crisis averted. Okay. So this is basically an overview of my current working decks. These are the decks that I use the most when it comes to my own personal readings right now, but also my client readings and my readings for the collective. So you may have seen some of these decks over the months. These are just really, really just all decks that I have used very consistently. I love their energy. They've been really powerful in my practice, but also with my clients. I feel like they read really clearly. For those of you who've seen my readings, I do always have several decks in every reading. So these decks I feel work together really well. And this is really kind of like a video for people who may not have seen a lot of my readings or are maybe new to my channel or just looking up specifically current decks for 2020. So if you're new here, welcome. For those of you who watch my readings, you may have definitely seen some of these decks. But here's kind of a refresher on just what I'm currently using, and comment down below if you're using these decks, if these resonate with you, if you have any questions, definitely let me know. So to get started here, I have several Oracle decks and several Tarot decks. So I'm going to start off with the Oracle decks, and these are in no particular order. I'm going to show you my favorite Tarot deck last, kind of to finish it off. But I'm going to do Oracle first, then Tarot. And these are in no particular order, but they all are really amazing decks. So let's get into it. So since I've just reorganized all my decks are in boxes right now. These current working decks will probably come out of their boxes fairly soon and go back on my altar because I'm redoing my altar. But I just wanted to have everything in one spot, everything's organized, and that felt really good. So currently they're all in their boxes, which is why I thought it was also a good idea to show them, because I genuinely have them all together with their books. So let's get into it. I know we're 4 minutes and 30 seconds in, so let's get to the cards. Okay, so the first deck I got a few months ago, and I've been using it a ton, and that is the Work Your Light Oracle cards by Rebecca Campbell. This box is gorgeous. Little ASMR. Yeah, there we go. Comment down below, guys. Should I Start an ASMR deck with my tarot. I've had a couple people tell me I should, which I thought was funny. The box is gorgeous. I actually saw that there's a new oracle deck that she just came out with called the Starseed Oracle, and because I love this one so much, and it actually goes with another tarot deck that I absolutely love from the same artist, I want all of the decks. So this is the little book. It's really awesome. I don't really use this very much, even though I have used it, but I really like using this deck intuitively. The cards upside down. The cards are absolutely gorgeous. I love the backing. Really nice size. The cardstock is beautiful. And the art is just lovely. Let me see this so you guys can look at the beautiful back. I haven't done one of these like show the decks things in a really long time. So this will give you just a really good idea of each deck. I'm not going to show you the entire deck. You get an idea with these keywords here. I want to do this fairly quickly. I know these current deck videos, deck collection videos can take a long time. I did ask you guys if you wanted to see a full deck collection video, and a bunch of you did say yes. So I am mentally preparing myself for that. I'm not going to promise it like a certain time when I'll have that up. It's probably going to be several videos long, and because when I did my last deck collection video, it took quite some time, but I also did like a lot of showing of each deck, so I'm going to do it like a lot more like concise, and I am just going to do it very quickly. So I'm not saying when that's actually going to happen, but it will at some point, I'm sure. This deck is amazing. I feel like it's amazing for clarity, for just pulling a card, or finishing up a reading to have some clarity from spirit. This deck, I think, could be for beginner to intermediate to really anyone. I mean, I've been using cards for years, and this deck wowed me, and I really, really enjoyed it. So I highly recommend that deck. I love the artwork. Yeah, overall, an amazing deck. I really have like no qualms about that deck whatsoever. Everything about it is beautiful. All right, the next deck is the Isis Oracle. Ooh, that's a little big. The Isis Oracle by Alana Fairchild. It's a Blue Angel deck, so of course the box is, perfect. The book that comes along with this is giant. If you haven't seen this deck, I highly recommend looking at it. Each card meaning is quite extensive. This is one of those decks where you could pull a card once a month and it will blow your mind. And I highly recommend it. This deck has been huge on my personal journey. I don't really use this for clients because it's really one of those, pull a card, read the book, sit with it, meditate, journal. So it's not really a client deck, because also the keywords aren't like super obvious. I usually, when I'm using decks for a client, I'm not going to use the book with it. I'm going to go off of keywords, very intuitive. And unless I like completely researched this deck and like really sat with it for a really long time, I don't think this deck is really good for that. But I would say this is one of my favorite decks when it comes to personal decks. And I have used this to connect with my deity. I do connect with the goddess Isis, as she is an amazing goddess. And this deck is extremely helpful with that. And it's a powerhouse. So I highly recommend it if you want to go deep, if you're going into your shadow work and empowerment. This is definitely the deck to check out. It is one of my all-time favorites, and I highly, highly recommend it. The art is beautiful. Everything about it's great. The cardstock is lovely. All right, moving on. These videos always take longer than you think, All right, this next deck I use for every single reading, especially for clients. Not always for me if I'm doing a quick reading, but like if I'm going to do a client reading that's like any type of concise, if I'm just like pulling cards, maybe not. But if I'm actually doing a reading, I will use this deck, and this is the Vintage Wisdom Oracle. And I got this deck a long time ago, and it didn't really resonate with me. I didn't really use it very much. And then I was thinking about getting rid of it. Oh, I don't think I have the book in here. I was thinking about getting rid of it because I just literally never used it. And I pulled it out, and before I rehome a deck, I will always pull up cards to see if it's like re-sparking, and I was blown away. And now I use this deck for every single reading. I use this for clarity. I don't really use the book. As you can see, it's not even with it. I do not use the book actually at all. I think I've read the book all of once or twice. I use this deck. I think there might be nudity in this, so like heads up. I use this deck specifically for the keywords. And I do really love the art. It's gorgeous. I'm very connected to the Victorian age and the 1920s, so this really resonates with me. But I will use this for finding out what the theme of a reading is and, you know, light and shadow aspects. And I can't even tell you, maybe it's just my own personal working with this deck, I don't know, but this deck is always so spot on. It literally directs almost all of my readings because like the tarot comes up and that's like, you know, really getting in depth, but this is the deck that tells me where to go with the client. Like, what is it the client's struggling with? What topic are we going to be leaning into? What does spirit want me to lean into when it comes to the entire reading? And this is the deck that does that for me. The cardstock's lovely. Everything about this deck is lovely. I don't think I really have any qualms about any of these decks, honestly. I mean, there's a couple little things which I will mention if it comes up, but this deck is one of my all-time favorites, and it's interesting because it's the art and stuff is very different from a lot of my other ones, but you know, if I could only pick a handful of decks, this is definitely one that would be on that list for sure. So that is that. I do believe these are all like actual vintage photographs, and they are stunning. I love them. Highly recommend this deck, especially if you want to do intuitive readings where you're just really going off of like that one key word. This deck really holds space for that for sure. All right, the next deck is the Soulful Women's cards. Sorry about the shine there. Soulful Woman guidance cards. I love this deck. I actually was using this in all of my readings for a while until I got the Work Your Light Oracle, and now I've been using that deck for kind of what I was using this deck for, but they are both awesome for the same thing. So, you know, ending a reading, just pulling a card, working off the keywords, it's very cool for, you know, like once you've gone into a very deep reading and you've done a lot of like work, this kind of like brings it to full circle and kind of closes up the reading, and I just love it. It's also really good for like just like to pull one card, but that's what I use it for. The book is pretty good. I really honestly don't use the book very much, and you'll find that I don't use the books very often unless it's a very specific deck where I really want to know what like the specific author wanted to. Like the Isis Oracle I do that with. I do with a couple of my decks, but those usually come from the fact that like the deck came from one of my spiritual teachers. So I'm like, I specifically want to know like their take on it, or there'll be a certain deity I'm trying to tap into, and so I'll do that. But a lot of these ones where there's like a shorter meaning or there's keywords, I will go completely intuitively, and that's what I prefer. However, you know, if you like using books, the books are also wonderful. I do recommend the book as well, especially if you're just getting into Oracle or Tarot. The books can be great for learning how to tap into your intuition. You know, you go intuitively, then you read the book. It can be really, really helpful. This deck is absolutely gorgeous. I love the backing. Then that's a huge thing too on your altar. Like, it can be so nice to have a bunch of like gorgeous decks just laid out. It can just be so yummy. I'm a Taurus, I can't help myself. And then I actually got this this deck specifically for the art. I am absolutely in love with the art of this deck. Every one just thrills my little soul. It's just so beautiful. And I actually did get this for the art. And this was another one of those decks that at first I just so didn't connect with. It ended up being on my shelf for a really long time. And then I picked it up more recently in the last like year and a half. And I just fell in love with this deck. It speaks so clearly. And that's another thing. If there's a deck you really love the art, and you just aren't finding you're connecting with it, keep it on the shelf for a little while. Come back to it a little later. Maybe it's gonna like, you know, poke your intuition there a year or two later, and you might find that that's exactly when those messages are supposed to come through. Or maybe you've worked deeper with your intuition and you've worked deeper into your practice, and now the images and now the keywords mean more to you, and now they really help with your intuition, where before maybe they just didn't spark what you needed. So I love this deck. It is just so sacred. I love the images. I believe they're all done by different artists. I absolutely love it. It's one of my favorites when it comes to art. I'd have almost any of these art pieces on my wall. I love these especially. These are just so, stinking gorgeous. So highly recommend this deck. It's beautiful. This would be a great beginner deck, especially with oracle cards. Any of these decks I feel are very usable. Some of them are a little more intermediate than others, but honestly, it's just about what draws you in. It's really about what resonates with you and is really going to help you tap into your intuition. So, you know, go off of what excites you. All right, and last for the oracle cards, we have one of my newer decks. I don't actually believe this deck is out yet. It's a pre-order. Let's see here. There we go. It's on pre-order. The only reason I have it is because I actually went to Teal Swan's event and they had them there. I believe they're coming out in February. And if you want to see a full review of this deck, I do have that on my channel. The box is amazing. Let's see here. The box is great. The book. Now, this is one of those decks where the book is crucial because there are no keywords and they're just sigils. So this book is something you are going to want to have with the deck. They're very thorough explanations. This is a very different kind of deck. She says do not cleanse it. It's a sigil deck, so it helps basically bring in the energy. Now, this deck is very specific. It's called the Blind Spot Oracle, which I don't think I mentioned. This is specifically for shadow work. This is a shadow work deck. That is literally what it's made to be, and it's literally there to assist you in finding your blind spot in any given situation. So oftentimes, this deck is extremely confronting, and it will kind of, hold no punches. And if you don't like the teachings of Teal Swan, I wouldn't necessarily recommend this deck. But that might be a shadow to look at as well. This deck is my favorite deck for shadow work because that's literally what it's made for. And to be honest, I'm not a huge fan of the design of this deck, but the messages that come through here are just so unbelievable that I can't get enough of it. So this deck is a sigil deck. So Teal channeled the sigil for each frequency that you're either that you're having the blind spot to. So some of the sigils help you bring it in, some of them help you see it, whatever that specific energy needs. So so you can meditate with these sigils and go from there. I will say I'm not a huge fan of the burnt paper and the blue, and I don't know, it's just not my style. It looks a little I don't want to use the word tacky, but it's the only word I can think of. But I don't even care. Right? This deck is so amazing. That doesn't even faze me. I probably would have preferred just a white card with the black sigil. I think that would be really nice. I think that would have been really nice for pictures. But that's just me. That's just a total preference. You may love it. And that's really what matters. And what really matters is the messages that are coming through. The cardstock is pretty good. Like I said, aside from a little bit of the aesthetic, I have no qualms with this deck. It's very well made. Teal obviously knows what she's doing. And this will kind of be another one of those knock your socks off kind of decks. So just be prepared for that. If you really want to go deep, awesome. If you really don't want to hear what you're kind of hiding from, maybe not the deck to use right now. But that's the Blind Spot Oracle by Teal Swan. I do recommend this deck. Like I said, I believe it's currently in pre-order, but she does have an app where you can use the deck. So she has them at her event. She has the app. This is not sponsored. It's just a really great deck, and I highly recommend it. And there are ways to use it now. All right, let's get on to the tarot. So the first tarot deck I have here, which is the one I kind of forgot about, it was over on my shelf, is the 8 Coins Tattoo Tarot. Now, this was my current reading deck, my current main tarot deck that I've been using for several months. It's currently not my current, but it is one that I go to consistently still. And it is, I love this deck. It's amazing. This deck called out to me for several years before I picked it up. I only saw it at 1 or 2 shops. The box is amazing. The art is amazing. This book is very thorough. It's got, color reproductions, all this stuff. There's a lot about how the art was created, how the order of the deck came. The order of the deck it came in the order she created the art in instead of like the actual order, which kind of threw me. I do have a review of this deck as well, so you can definitely go check it out. It comes with a little spread thing. And she actually has a few of the originals in here as well, which I don't use. I use the ones that she did later, but you can use either one. I love this deck a lot. She really used this as an art journey. She, the cardstock is really lovely. She used this as an art journey, so the art, it evolves through the deck, but she didn't want it to go like, have like the Fool be like her least, professional, I guess you might say, piece of art, and then have like the last card be like the best card. So she did it out of order and she picked it randomly. So, but if you see the cards in the order she created them, you can definitely see her evolution of art. She did this, I believe there might be nudity in this, so heads up. She did this based off of, tattoo, what's the word I'm looking for? Tattoo flash. And she did a very specific type of painting with this. I think it's called spit painting or something like that, where you actually use your saliva in the painting. It's a very interesting, it's all in the book. It's really fascinating. If you're into art, this might be a deck that you would like to delve into farther just for the deck. The messages in this are beautiful. They're clear. I love the imagery. Some are abstract, as you can see. Some are a little more specific. I really do love this deck. There are a few, I really like the feminine faces in this. The masculine are okay. But the messages that come through this are really clear. I like the size of the cards. It's just a really beautiful deck, and I'm really glad I got it. It definitely doesn't disappoint. The voice of this deck is lovely, and I love the art. I don't know what else to say about it. I feel like tarot is so personal because it's unlike an oracle deck where you're gonna like read the book to go along with it with the message. Like tarot is so personal. It's so about the reader's experience and how they read the cards and what their experience has been, that someone could read with the deck and it could be like the most intuitive deck for them, and the next person comes along and they can barely read it. So, I mean, any tarot reader can really use any deck once they've like delved in, but there are just some decks that do not resonate with people. So it's very, very personal. So I don't really have anything to say about like, oh, this is better because of this, or this. It just resonates with my personal intuition. I like using it. I like the feeling of the cards, and the messages are really clear. It is a very different deck. I feel like it's very unique. Like I said, some of the art, it's okay, but the art I do like in this, like, oh, so amazing. Yeah, it really works for me. So that is the 8 Coins Tattoo Tarot. I feel like there are some pieces of art in here that like didn't come through that are just like amazing, and I want to show you because like some of these are just amazing. It's just a very cool deck. Oh, the Lover's card is so good. Anyway, so that is the 8 Coin Tattoo Tarot. Like I said, it was my go-to reading deck for quite some time. I don't think it ever won't be a go-to deck for me. It's clear and concise, and I really love it. The only reason it's not my go-to deck right now is because I just came in the possession of probably one of my all-time favorite decks. Like, I can't imagine not being in love with this deck, and so I feel like that's going to be my go-to tarot deck for a very long time, if not always. So, and that doesn't happen very often. So, but all of these are really awesome. Okay, the next deck I got recently from my partner. I have this in the tarot deck section because it is called a tarot deck, but personally, this is more of an oracle deck to me. And this is the Frequency Tarot Divine Guidance cards by Teal Swan, and these are based off of her frequency paintings that she paints based on the frequency she sees. The box is okay, definitely more tarot box than that nice oracle deck box that we know and love. This deck, I would actually say it's more of an oracle deck, and the reason I say that is this tarot deck, even though there are, I believe, 78 cards, 77, there is no relation between these cards, as far as I can tell, and the tarot cards at all. So this is more of an oracle card oracle deck. And the book that comes along with this is really cool. It is kind of almost like a little white book, but it goes through each frequency's meaning. And she's extrasensory, so she literally sees the frequency and paints it. And so this is like the frequency that came through. And I don't use this, obviously, as a tarot deck. Like I said, I use it more as an oracle deck. So oftentimes when I'm reading with someone, I mean, I'll pull these for myself, but if I'm reading for someone, I'll use this as a finisher card to say like, okay, what is the, oh, I think this is gonna be upside down. What is the energy that you need to bring in, or what is the energy that you're struggling with this? And she does do reversals. And I like this because the idea is that when you meditate on this energy, if you have this frequency painting in your space, you actually entrain to the frequency. So I have her frequency paintings all over my rooms. I have them in jewelry. They work like magic. It could be placebo in the sense of like you have such an intention towards that frequency, it comes through. But honestly, either way, it's working. So it's pretty amazing. So I'll use this as a, what frequency do you want to bring in? What frequency do you, what frequency is going to assist you? I will often show them the card and then they, suggest that they do a screenshot, or they can go purchase, her painting or, on whatever. Again, not sponsored. They work for me. So I suggest them. These are all going to be upside down. They work really well. I love her definitions. I find her art beautiful. And, see. I didn't trust myself. I really love this deck. And my partner got this for me for Christmas. I love it. It's something I really enjoy. And because I like having her frequencies around, it's a pretty cool thing to be able to have all of these frequencies that I can pick one and put on my my altar and work with it. So, and of course, they're upside down again. So, I love this deck. You can see her art has evolved a little bit over the years too. Yeah, it's really powerful. I highly recommend checking out her website, checking out her frequencies. I like to just scroll down her frequencies and just pick one randomly, see what comes up for me. It's pretty fun. I love the colors. They're very cool. I like this tarot deck. And again, it's more of an oracle deck than anything, but she calls it a tarot deck. She has an oracle deck. We'll go with it. But I don't think I could read this like a tarot. I couldn't because it doesn't have anywhere close to the structure. So I could definitely do a spread with this. I could definitely have spread spots, but I prefer not to. I may in the future. Who knows? And you can get both of her decks on her website. I don't think you can get them anywhere else unless you go to her event. All right, so then we have the Crystal Unicorn Tarot, and I got this off of Amazon recently. It only said they had a few copies left. I don't know if they're going to restock. Who knows, but that's what I jumped right on it because I've been looking at this deck for a while. So if you want to check out the full review of this deck, it's one of my more recent videos. The box is lovely. This is one of those decks where just like everything is nice about the deck. It's well made. This is basically like a little white book. They got all the little meanings. I would say this is a really good beginner deck. It's very light, but the meanings are clear and concise. Yeah, it's great. What I love about this deck is how playful this deck is. It's very inner child. It's very light, and I just thought it was so stinking cute. It just made my inner child so happy. The reason it is in my current working decks is because it's such a new deck and I do want to work with it, but I literally just got it like a week ago. I haven't actually officially used it yet, but I do kind of have a little bit of leeway for new decks I want to work with, so they do end up on my altar if I'm really guided to use them. And I want to explore what type of readings I will be doing with this deck because I feel like it's going to be very inner child, very playful, very creative. And as you can see, for those of you who work with tarot, this is very Rider-Waite inspired, but it's unicorns. And I just thought it was so stinking cute. This deck hasn't been very shuffled, so we'll see what comes up. We've got a lot of swords here, but you get the idea. Let's see if we can get some major arcanas here. There's the Tower. We've got the Star. I just love this. It's really playful. Honestly, if I never read with this deck, I'd be fine with that. I just love that it's in my collection. It's so cute, and I know it's going to come up for the right people. I just know that this deck is in my collection for a reason. Also, I believe it's just the major arcana, but there are crystals actually that go with the card. So actually, I think that's one of the crystals right there. It's not super clear what it is, but you can look it up in the book. So yeah, that's the crystal unicorn. Tarot, I think it's so stinking cute. It's like how can you not love that? I mean, unless you don't like playful, colorful, flowery things, then I can appreciate why you might not like this deck. But honestly, like it's just too stinking cute. Like, how can you not like this? It kind of reminds me, unfortunately, of a little bit of like the Charlie videos, you know, like going to Candy Mountain, Charlie. Is it Candy Mountain? I think. These little unicorns remind me of those characters, but like if those characters weren't demons. Like if they were really sweet little beings, but like that's like exactly what they remind me of. And I just think that's so freaking funny. But I love it. It's like they really worked it into all of the images, and I love this deck. I think it's cute. I could just look at this deck and it would make me happy, you know? Like it doesn't actually have to be a deck I read with, honestly. And I'm very much with working with my inner child. I have inner child stuff on my altar that's very specific. Hi guys. So, fun story. I was filming that card collection video, my current favorite using decks video, when my camera decided to shut off and promptly told me that it hadn't saved any of the footage, which I just kind of went, okay, I guess I will film it at another time. So today I got my camera out to film a different video, which I will be filming in a few minutes. And I went to go delete, a bunch of videos off my phone just to make sure that there was space. And there's a video. The whole stinking half-an-hour video. And I was like, oh, no way. Because literally the only deck I hadn't done was my last deck, which is my current favorite deck. And so I was like, you know what? I am going to record the last the last deck. Let me see if I can get my lighting here really nice. So we're gonna finish off that video, and I'm really excited because that means I don't actually have to record the rest of it again. So that's pretty cool. So for the final deck, drumroll please. We have the Light Seers Tarot. Now there has been a little drama around the creation of this deck when it was produced for a wide market. But they're sorting it out. So this is actually the deck I got. There is a little damage to it, but in February I will be getting a new deck that apparently is going to be printed better. So I will be doing an updated video on that when I get that. If you want to see a full review of this deck, I did just produce it. It's on my channel. The box is gorgeous. It's lovely. It says beautiful things on it. Now, not as an exaggeration, I think this is like my current favorite deck. I would say tarot deck. That's shiny. It's still shiny. This, what is happening? All right, well, it's gonna be a little shiny. Because that doesn't even, you can't even see the deck. Anyway. The book is really awesome. It's very thorough. I would suggest this as a beginner deck. I think it's lovely. Like I said, the deck is a little damaged. A lot of them were damaged when printing. So they're doing a restock of a better printed deck. So, if you do purchase this deck after like February, you will be getting that version of it. So if you're thinking about getting this deck, I would just wait like a month. This deck, okay, like I was saying, is probably my favorite deck currently. Maybe not including Oracle decks, but I can't actually think of an Oracle deck that I just love this deck. This deck is awesome. So I'm going to go through it. Actually, a few of the cards are not in here because they're as a part of a spread right now that I am meditating on and studying. So they're not in there, but there are still a ton of gorgeous cards. Now you can see there's this bend here in the card right there. See that? That's in every single card. That was the issue in my deck. Some of the decks, the cards were cut at different sizes. There was a lot of issues, but Hay House has offered to replace any decks that were damaged. So if your deck was, contact them because they will send you a new deck free of charge. So I'm really excited about that. So I'm actually going to be having 2 copies of this deck, so I will use this one for travel. So if it gets damaged, it's not like a huge deal. But I cannot get over how amazing this deck is. It reads like magic. I love the imagery. It's clear, it's concise. Again, if you want a Rider-Waite based style deck but don't want the Rider-Waite, I would highly recommend this deck. Everything about it is gorgeous, aside from, again, the cardstock, which I heard they are going to be upgrading. My theory is that because the cardstock is so thin, whatever company was printing this deck, the machinery was too hard on it, because like a lot of the decks have this exact same bump in it. But I gotta tell you, even if I wasn't getting this deck replaced, it would still be my favorite deck. It's so good. This is by Chris Ann, and if you go to her Instagram, I think it's Pixie Curio, she is in the process of publishing another tarot deck, and you can get this deck through Amazon, and I believe she has an Oracle deck as well. So I highly recommend this deck if you're getting into tarot. If you've been reading tarot for years, like, this deck is just gorgeous, and I really have nothing bad to say about it aside from, again, the printing error, which is being fixed. So I don't even feel like that's important to harp on as a problem of this deck, because it is being fixed. And when she published it herself, I believe the quality was higher, and then when Hay House took it over to mass print it, that's when the issue came. So a lot of people who got this deck when it was first released, it was a really, really good quality too. So anyway, this is my current favorite deck. I've been using it for clients. I have been using it for myself. I can't get enough of this deck. Like, part of me just wants to keep pulling cards from it so I can, like, just keep using it. But I'm also loving meditating with it. The imagery is so clear. The messages are so clear. I just adore this deck. So I highly recommend it. Again, if you guys want a video of decks for beginners, Oracle or Tarot, or my intermediate deck suggestions, definitely comment them down below. Let me know, and I am totally happy to do that. So this is the final deck in the video. I'm really glad that video, for some reason my phone decided to go, hey, you know what? Let's have that video. So I'm pretty excited about that. So thank you so much for watching, guys. Comment down below if any of these decks resonated with you. These are my current working decks. These are all just decks I love. If you have any questions, definitely comment them down below. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, definitely hit subscribe and hit the like button. And if you'd like to check out my other social media, the links to that are in the description down below, along with my Etsy shop, where I do offer personal tarot readings over Skype and through video. So if you're interested in getting a personal reading, you can definitely check out my shop. And I also have some other cool spiritual tools there as well. So thank you guys so much for watching. So much love, many blessings, namaste. And don't forget, it is all about the soul journey. Bye, guys.